on a planet filled with madmen, lunatics, and crazy rock and roll musicians from America. This is one called Lacticon.
On September 14th, 1948, Frederick Dewey Smith was born on Broad Branch, West Virginia, in the Harts Creek area of Lincoln and Logan counties. An electrical storm was raging and the midwife was delayed, so Fred was delivered by his grandfather in the family's kitchen. A humble entrance for one who would go on to co-found one of the 60s most incendiary bands. Though his family relocated to Detroit in hopes of finding work, the connection with West Virginia remained strong. His father, Dewey Smith, a great admirer of bluegrass music, laid aside dreams of being a country singer to support his growing family. Fred attended Lincoln Park High School, where, as a self-proclaimed greaser, he was regularly in trouble for having long hair. He was also athletic. A promising shortstop, he was scouted for the Tigers farm system, and his dreams were divided between sports and music. In the mid-1960s, playing bongos in the vibratones, he met fellow student Wayne Kramer. Fred switched to guitar and bought a Fender Duosonic, which provided him with his nickname. Smith and Kramer joined forces. Adding singer Rob Tyner and an explosive rhythm section, they call themselves Motor City 5, which evolved as the MC5.
When it happened, something snapped inside, made me want to hide.
MC5's sound was shaped by its imported Super Beetle Vox amps. Costing $3,000, they were the most powerful amplifier on the market. The band's main hangout was the Detroit drag strip, and Fred found he was able to replicate the sound and energy of the nitro-fueled dragsters by turning his Super Beetle up to 10. The band's first original, Black to Calm, begins with Fred playing a two-chord riff that recalls a revved-up Chevy engine. The band rehearsed at the Detroit Artists Workshop, a combination residence and performance space. It was operated by John Sinclair, a jazz poet and head of the militant anti-racist White Panther Party, who became the band's manager. MC5 was hired as the house band for the Grandy Ballroom, at the time the city's premier venue, and opened for some of the most influential acts of the day, including Jimi Hendrix and Cream. As part of the volatile political and social scenes of the 1960s, the MC5 never shied away from confrontation or feared clashes with law enforcement. The band agreed to perform at the infamous 1968 Democratic Convention in Chicago. More famous acts were slated to appear, but in the end, only MC5 performed. The show and the city's Lincoln Park erupted into a riot. The MC5 relocated to Ann Arbor, Michigan, a growing epicenter for music, art, and politics. The MC5 and fellow Detroiters Iggy and the Stooges came to the attention of Danny Fields, who had signed the Doors to the label. Elektra signed both bands on the same day. The MC5's 1968 debut album, Kick Out the Jams, was recorded live at the Grandy, and the group was featured on the cover of Rolling Stone magazine before the record was even released.
Kick out the jams, motherfucker!
The band's relationship with Elektra was rocky, and they were ultimately let go. Atlantic Records' Jerry Wexler signed the group and issued MC5's second album, Back in the USA. Fred had emerged as the band's central writer and penned half the songs on its third and final release, High Time.
I know
Though critically hailed, they had little commercial success and broke up under the weight of drug use, riots, arrests, incarcerations, and infighting. The MC5 played its legendary last show on New Year's Eve 1972 at the Grande Ballroom. Smith, Davis, and Thompson continued playing under the name Ascension for a year. Fred then formed Sonic's Rendezvous Band. In 1977 through 79, Sonic's Rendezvous co-billed with the Patti Smith Group. Fred and Patti's growing long-distance relationship strengthened even as they toured in separate parts of the world. Patti's contribution to her 1978 collaboration with Bruce Springsteen, Because the Night, was drawn from her relationship with Fred.
Have I doubt when I'm alone? Love is the ring, the telephone. Love is an angel disguised as lust. Here in our bed until the morning comes.
In 1979, Patti moved to Detroit, and in 1980, the couple married. They spent most of the next decade out of the public eye, raising their son Jackson and daughter Jessie. In 1988, they re-emerged with the album Dream of Life, which Fred co-produced with Jimmy Iovine. The album included their anthem, People Have the Power. Fred Sonic Smith died on November 4th, 1994, at the age of 46. His memorial service was held at the Detroit Mariners Church, referenced in Gordon Lightfoot's The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, and the same church where he and Patti were married. In an era of peace, love, and flower power, the MC5 were about revolution. The group embodied the energy and rebellion of youth, while its embrace of politics would be adopted by punk bands on both sides of the Atlantic and pave the way for punk and heavy metal. In 2003, Rolling Stone ranked Fred Smith as one of rock's greatest guitarists of all time. The song People Have the Power has been globally embraced by social activists, those fighting on behalf of human rights, and was the clarion call for the Vote for Change movement. Fred Sonic Smith's musical legacy is far-reaching and further magnified by his stoic, honorable character and the love and devotion he bestowed on his family.